Attack on Titan is one of the best anime epics of all time. Plain and simple. Hell, it's more than that. It's one of the best TV dramas of all time. It's one of the best horror slash action slash dramas slash war parable of all time. Like, it's a masterpiece. It's been a little while since that finale back in late 2023, and I finally just want to give this show its due now that it's been wrapped up for a little while, and I can look back on it and just say, yeah, this is it. This is a masterpiece. Attack on Titan is officially in my top anime list now, which has grown since the last time I put that up here on my channel, my top 10 list. It's like a top 16 now, but anyway, Attack on Titan is definitely up there. It was a huge standout achievement back in the 2010s, and of course, going into the early 2020s when it finally ended. It started back in 2013, and it's interesting because, like, that's when streaming really took off, like, really started to take off, especially with anime. Anime and streaming were a match made in heaven. It really did a lot for the anime industry and for how anime can be viewed here in the States, especially. Um, and I remember Attack on Titan being very special for me because not only was that around the time that I first started watching anime simulcast, where new episodes of an anime air at the same time that they air in Japan. So you're watching it week to week, the same way the Japanese audience is. Attack on Titan back in 2013, I remember just thinking, like, wow, this is cool. Catching an anime series, a new epic like this right from the start, and being able to watch it week to week, like, that was kind of new for anime here in the US, because, of course, in the past, like in the Toonami or Adult Swim days, like, that wasn't a luxury we had. Anime would usually come here, like, a couple of years after it already finished airing in Japan, and we usually got stuff that was less than current. So it's really cool. Like, Attack on Titan had that. It had the advantage of coming out at the time it did. And that is definitely a huge part of its massive popularity all over the world, including the United States, where it really helped push anime into becoming mainstream. Like, obviously now in 2025, we're at a peak point right now where anime has become absolutely mainstream. Like, it just is now. And that's not something you could have always said here in the US for the longest time. It was a niche cult thing for a very long time. It still has a very heavy, very rich subculture behind it for those fanatics like me. But Attack on Titan helped push that forward. It helped make it more mainstream than ever uh, because of streaming, partly, but also because this show is unlike any other anime out there. Even though it is still very much an anime, it's unlike anything I've ever seen in anime or any TV show before. It's got such a unique hook. Everything with the Titans in the first season of the walled off city that all these humans are living in. They don't know much about the world outside of those walls. The Titans are a profound, fascinating, and terrifying mystery. They're a great twist on, like, I guess, zombie stories, you could say, because they are kind of zombie-like, at least the ones we meet in the beginning. And they're just a great idea. It's a nice fusion of, like, zombie horror and like terrifying giants from, like, medieval fairy tales or whatever. But it's handled in a way that feels very mysterious. Very part of the horror is just we don't know where these titans came from. We don't know what created them or whatever. And there's so much mystery that drives the show in the beginning, but also Eren as a character, the way he loses his mom in the very first episode, and how that sets off the tone of the entire show going forward. Like, I think that's something Attack on Titan did extremely well, even back in its first season, and I don't think it gets enough credit for it. A lot of people talk about how much better the show got in later seasons, how the final season especially was just knocked it out of the park and is one of the best things I've ever seen on TV before. But even that first season, all those years ago, back in 2013, I still thought this was something special. Like, I I love the fact that Attack on Titan, unlike some anime out there, it has this dark, brutal horror tone, but it doesn't fuck with it. You know what I mean? It doesn't fuck up that tone with too much silliness or too much over the top humor. As much as I like anime with really great over the top humor or whatever, there are some anime that try too hard to have it both ways, to have your silly, goofy, over the top humor, characters acting ridiculous, uh, right after or right before something tragic or terrible happens, or some shocking moment of violence occurs. Full Metal Alchemist, in my opinion, is very guilty of that, which is why I'm not a fan of that series. Whether it's the original or Brotherhood or whatever. There are just some writers out there some authors that I don't think handle that very well. They don't balance those tones very well. And that's just my preference, I guess. That's my taste. I mean, obviously, for a lot of people, those shifts in tone, maybe some people like those tonal shifts. But for me, I like a consistent tone. If you're going to go with something as dark and brutal as Attack on Titan, for example, you really need to kind of stick to that tone. You need to keep your show believable in a certain way, when it comes to the tone, when it comes to the way the characters handle situations and the way they react emotionally to things. And I think Attack on Titan just does that extremely well, especially in its, right from the start in the first season, it already has that. It already has this very dark, like right in that first episode, we know what we're getting. We know, okay, this is tragic, this is violent, this is a show that is very heavy, and it is not holding back, it is not pulling any punches. But at the same time, it's not without levity. It's not without moments of relief or characters, saying something or doing something that makes you laugh. It has its moments of levity, but it never feels like it breaks the tone of the show. It's never forced. It's never like, oh, a character's doing a silly bit now, and that's just gonna, it's just gonna be a comedy for the next several minutes. No, it doesn't go that far, which is good. We have like Sasha with her potato, at the camp later on in the first season. And, you have levity like that. You have meme moments or whatever that are fun and are meant to be fun, but they don't feel out of place. They don't feel like something that couldn't, happen in this storyline. It's natural humor. And that's something Attack on Titan does really well. Most of the show is dark, most of the show is dramatic and suspenseful, but it also knows when to provide that relief. And yeah, it ends up being an incredible series that obviously had a bit of a troubled production. Uh, Studio Wit eventually handed it off to Studio Mappa, so there was a studio change before we got to the final season. The whole series was broken up very strangely. Like, we had the first season, then we had to wait 4 years to get season 2. Then they broke season 3 into 2 parts. The final season was broken into like 3 parts, I guess, with the last part being like a movie almost. So it was a lot. There was a lot of delays, there was a lot of waiting in between seasons. That was kind of inconsistent, but it all paid off. That's the thing that needs to be said here. Even with the studio changes, like, yeah, the animation and art style changed, but it ended up happening at just the right time. Studio Mappa taking over in the final season was actually a stroke of genius, because they lended that season a darker feel, a different feel to the animation and art that actually worked well with the story at that point. And maybe there is that one retcon that unfortunately the anime had to make when it comes to Mikasa and her heritage. When we find out about the mark on her arm and everything, that, yeah, there's moments like that were little slip-ups, from the manga to the anime. But I can forgive shit like that when this show just nailed it so well. Just 99.9% of the time, everything about this show is so good. Every season had payoffs. Every season had huge plot twists and incredible revelations. Just the way characters would shift alliances, the way Eren becomes a villain towards the final season, the way we find out about like Reiner and both Bertholdt and the other main characters who seemed like good guys in the beginning, and then we find out, oh god, they're Titans too, and all this shit. Like, it's crazy, honestly. It's crazy. Like, there's so many like incredible moments in the show where it pulls the rug out from under you, and it doesn't feel cheap. It feels more like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, the Titans were in the walls. Oh, okay. Oh, other humans are also Titans. Oh shit. Wait, all the Titans maybe were actually just humans all along. Oh wait, there's like this whole crazy like eldritch horror past origin story to the Titans that involves this little girl, and there's this crazy like afterlife dimension where like all this shit is created. It's like, oh man, it sounds like too much. It sounds convoluted, but it isn't, because the show does such a fantastic job of dulling out this information very slowly over the course of the series. Each revelation, each twist, each new bit of lore that we find out about Attack on Titan is always so incredible, and it's always so well handled in the anime. Like, the final season especially, man, it's just payoff after payoff after payoff. Like, you know how rare it is to have a TV series that runs this long for this many seasons, almost over a decade, and manages to pay off everything that it set up beautifully and perfectly. All the mysteries, all the things that we thought, might lead to nowhere or might not lead to anything satisfying. Or, maybe the author is just pulling shit out of his ass. Maybe this writing is just, because that happens all the time with big long form stories or trilogies or TV shows, where things are set up and they seem interesting. You're thinking, where's this going? This is probably going to have one cool payoff. And then you find out, no, it was all bullshit. They come up with some last minute thing, feels like an ass pull. I'm thinking of like the end of the second Star Wars, what is it? The Star Wars sequel trilogy, whatever you want to call it, where we find out, oh, Snoke was just some random monster created by Palpatine, who is somehow still alive, by the way. Like that kind of bullshit. Attack on Titan is a great example of the opposite of that, where it's like, oh, somebody actually planned this story out. They planned Isayama, the artist, the writer behind the manga series of Attack on Titan, clearly knew where things were going. Like, all of this was set up incredibly well. When Eren starts like going back in time and fucking with uh his past and like speaking to his own father, it's crazy, man. Like, the way this show circles back on past seasons later on, and it all feels natural, it all feels earned, and it ends up being this incredible story about fear, and how fear causes war, and how people will become monsters. How anybody can be a monster, a titan, if you will, or whatever, if what they love, what they hold dear, is threatened. At the end of the day, we find out that the big finale of this series, the final note that I feel is conveyed, the message behind this show, is that fear is what leads us to do horrible things. Fear of losing what we love, fear of losing the things that we hold dear, the things that we want to protect, the things, whether it's a way of life or friends or family or whatever, heritage, legacy. This show, all of its characters grapple with that, and they all end up being very human. Even the most despicable characters in early seasons that we hated or we thought were terrible villains end up having really human origin stories that like really make you think like, oh shit, in the course of a single flashback sometimes, we'll just go from one episode to the next. I'm thinking of like when we find out what's his name story, the guy, Eren's brother. When we find out Eren's blonde brother, whose name I forgot right now. When we find out his origins, like, I remember hating that guy so much. Like, oh, he's such a bastard. Get him, Levi. Take him out. I wanted Levi to kill this guy. When we finally find his origin in his flashback scene, we go from one episode of hating him to another episode where I'm like, this guy is a he's actually a bro. Like, I actually feel sorry for him. He's actually not a bad person at all. It's like, I would do the same thing in his shoes. And that's the incredible thing about the writing in Attack on Titan, the character writing. Everything the characters do in this show, everything that every character in this show does, I understand their motivations. I understand, I think to myself, yeah, if I was in their shoes, I'd probably act the same way. I'd probably do the same thing. Yeah, it's like, it's just really good writing. Phenomenal character writing. That's what Attack on Titan has above all else. You know, more than just the great action against the Titans, the great horror scenes with the Titans, uh, all of this stunning action and plot twist and revelations and the interesting lore of its mysterious world. The thing that comes through the most is the character writing. It's just phenomenal. Like, there are so many characters that we start out hating in this show that we grow to, like, not only feel sorry for, but also kind of like love, you know? There's so many characters that are just humanized so much throughout this whole series, and it makes the conflicts, it makes all the bloodshed and loss all the more, like, hard to deal with as the show goes on. Because in the beginning, again, in its first season, it really felt like just a great survival story against these monsters, a horror survival story, you know, kind of like a zombie apocalypse story or anything like that, where they're just fighting monsters and trying to protect their fellow humans. And it's very one-sided. And by the final season, it just becomes this big human story about all these different characters, all these different humans, whether they have Titan powers or become Titans or whatever. Titans may still be involved by the end of Attack on Titan, but it's not really about the Titans anymore. It's about the people. And that is, yeah, the people end up being scarier and also more sympathetic than anything when the series started. So, yeah, it's phenomenal. From front to back, I think Attack on Titan is a masterpiece. I think it's one of the best anime of all time, one of the best TV dramas of all time, even, you know. And it's definitely it's a big reason why anime has become so mainstream in recent years, along with many other notable titles out there. Don't get me wrong, but Attack on Titan, especially its longevity and just like how powerful its fandom was and how strong its fandom was, and probably still continues to be. Yeah, I think it's incredible. So, what do you guys think? You know, how do you feel about Attack on Titan? This entire series. You know, did you love the finale, especially the final season, as much as I did? Uh, what are your thoughts? You know, explain in the comments. Let me know. The only other TV series I could think of that even comes close to this when it comes to really blowing me away would be like Twin Peaks, maybe, especially the final season of Twin Peaks. Um, that's the only thing I could think of. I have to go outside of anime to think of a dramatic, like, powerful, gut-wrenching, thematic, human epic like this that has as much humanity as Attack on Titan does, and has made me care as much as I did about these characters, despite how fantastical and over the top it is. Um, I can't think of many others, you know? I can't think of many other shows that really hit me the way this one did. But that's all I gotta say for now, guys. You know, let me know what you think. And until next time, you get to burning and live for the passion.